Pritzker is now allowing illegal aliens in his jail system to officially change their names and give them different identifications so the ICE cannot track them. Think about what I just said. That is a criminal offense. Murphy is concealing the illegal alien knowingly above his garage. Donald Trump is going to have to authorize Tom Holman to go make one or two of these arrests, and guess what? It'll stop. It will stop overnight. Donald Trump is going to have to do things that current historians are going to be shocked at and call him vile names. I mean, future politicians, historians 100 years from now, will write volumes and volumes as if he was the second coming of George Washington, because this has to be done. Will he do it? I'm going to bet money yes. I bet you right now Tom Homan wakes up every day thinking, is this the day I'm going to go arrest a mayor or a governor?
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for joining us once again on The State of Freedom.
The State of Freedom is a listener-supported podcast. We're committed to pursuing the truth about policymaking, decisions, and situations in Louisiana and at the national level that stand to impact our freedoms.
Please become a monthly supporter of the State of Freedom at freedomstate.us as we continue to expand the voice of liberty across Louisiana and beyond.
We're so pleased to have JJ Carrell joining us again today. He, as you might remember, was a Border Patrol agent for 24 years. If you didn't catch our previous interview with him, please go ahead and watch it. Make a point to do that. It was a fantastic discussion, very enlightening. Touched on some topics that are tough, but it's very important that you watch it. And JJ was a Border Patrol agent, but now he is a documentary filmmaker. He's an author and he's a speaker. He's been sounding the alarms about the horrors and very true reality of human trafficking, and especially child trafficking in our nation. Before we dive into the conversation, let me read the scripture of the day. It's Psalms chapter 2, verses 10 through 12. And it says, and just some background on this psalm is a discussion between the Trinity, and the verses I'm reading are the Holy Spirit speaking. And the Holy Spirit says, "Listen to me, all you rebel kings and all you upstart judges of the earth. Learn your lesson while there's still time. Serve and worship the awe-inspiring God. Recognize his greatness and bow before him, trembling with reverence in his presence. Fall face down before him and kiss the Son, before his anger is roused against you. Remember that his wrath can be kindled quickly, but many blessings are waiting for all those who turn aside to hide themselves in him." And the scriptures have always felt relevant to me, but lately I have felt like we are living in very literal, biblically significant times. And it's clear that the Lord is dealing with rebellious leaders of nations. And I personally believe we're just in the early days of seeing that. And I believe that we'll see the Lord put a spotlight on every single rebel king, president, prime minister, and judge in the earth. I think we're going to see the same with governors and local leadership. There's really an emphasis, I think, from the Lord right now on purity in governance and in justice. And I think that's hard to deny. The way for these leaders to not face the wrath of God is humility. And it's going to need that they each acknowledge the greatness and glory of God. They repent and ask for forgiveness from Jesus to be made whole if they don't want to face the wrath of God. So those who do that are promised with blessing and protection, and those who do not will face the wrath of God. This is a word for all of us, of course, as individuals. It's not just for kings and governors, but it's an especially strong word for those in governmental leadership and for judges, that Holy Spirit sees everything. And this is a time where he's calling into account people.
Yeah. And God is a God of mercy, but he's also a God of justice. And there's a great passage, Danielle, in the Old Testament, I think it might be from the book of Ecclesiastes, that says, "For those in positions of great power, a rigorous scrutiny impends. So they're going to be held to a much, much higher standard for the diligent and faithful exercise of the power that they have. No
Yeah.
question about that. And they won't be able to say they haven't been warned. But fortunately, God's mercy reigns supreme, and it's never too late to turn back and humble ourselves before God and begin to do the right thing. But I agree with you that the purification and the purging is upon us, and thank God.
It
And
is.
it cannot come soon enough. And one of the guys who has probably done more to raise public awareness about some of the horrific things that have gone on at our border is JJ Carrell. Second time we've had you on, JJ. Always a pleasure to have you on the State of Freedoms.
Thank you very much for having me, and thank you for praying and speaking those words, because I believe strongly that this is a good versus evil. It's no longer Republican, Democrat. It's truly a side. Do you want to be on the side of Satan, killing children in the womb, mutilating their bodies, child sex trafficking, gender ideology, fluidity, and all the evils that come with that? Or do you want to get on the side of God, where we're going to cherish children, we're going to cherish life, we're going to cast out truly the demons from LGBTQ and XYZ? And I think now is a very unique time in history, because there's no confusion of what each side stands for. It's like the curtain has been pulled back. Everyone is naked. We see everything. Choose the side you want to be on. And we're at that time, I believe.
Yeah.
I believe too, and it's so funny you say that, because before, when Chris and I were prepping this morning, we were just talking about the fact that under the Biden's administration was executing the plans of Satan. Like, I don't think that that's putting it too strongly to just say it in those exact terms.
Yeah. You know, JJ, they say the line between good and evil is not always black and white. There are nuances in life, but in the situations that you just described, I would say that it is absolutely black and white, and the lines are very clearly divided, and we do need to choose where we stand, and there is no time, no room for equivocation. Speaking of a guy, JJ, who does not seem to equivocate about much of anything, your friend Tom Holman, you predicted the last time you were on our show that he would be appointed as the border czar under Trump. You were right. What are your thoughts on how he's doing? It looks like thousands of illegals have already been arrested and deported, many others hopefully on the way. How's he doing so far in your view?
I think he is doing an incredible job. You got to think about what you're asking him to do. And I want your audience to understand, and we can go through how I come to this number, but this number of illegal aliens in America, residing in America, has already been verified. It's been talked in the halls of Congress. It's openly discussed. It's over 50 million. 50 million illegal aliens are in America. That's 1 in 6 to 1 in 7. I can go through that, how I came. I didn't pull that number out of my hat. This is a solid number. I've researched it. Congressmen have agreed to it.
That's the largest, JJ, by the way, that's the largest number that I've ever heard.
Okay. If you give me I think it's important when someone makes a statement of that magnitude. I don't think I can if you just give me a minute, I will explain how I come to that number. So Yale and MIT did a study in 2018, came out in 2019. It became the gold standard of how many illegal aliens were in our country, because we've been lied to. For my first decade of my career, I was told 5 to 6 million, 5 to 6 million. It never changed. I saw people pouring across the border and the number never changed, right? And I knew it was a lie. We came into about 2011. It got to about 11 million, and that stayed static. Like from 2010 to 2019, everyone's like 11 million, 11 million. I'm like, everyone's lying. It's not 11 million. So Yale and MIT did a study. So two universities that I would not say are conservative by any means. They did a study. They took all the demographics information, jammed it into an algorithm, and ran that algorithm 1 million times. And they came out with a high of 29 million illegals in America in 2019. They came to the mean, the average of 22. And everyone, and I watched this happen like this, everyone in the media, everyone in politics all went, yep, it's 22, it's 22. And I knew, right? They don't agree on anything. They just went for the lowest number. And that became the gold standard, 22 million in 2019. I have proven in my book, Invaded, and now in my new book that'll come out in February 18th called Treason, I've proven that 30 million illegal aliens have poured across the border under Joe Biden's watch. 12 million illegal aliens are in the cbp.gov data, meaning this is what has been captured by our federal government and admitted to. They have an admitted rate of about 95 to 97% release rate. So they are releasing everyone. That's never been done in the history of the Border Patrol. So you have 12 million there. They admit, the government has admitted to 3 million gotaways, meaning people that cross the border absconded. During Joe Biden's term, the whole 4 years, less than 80% of the border was manned. 80% of the border was unmanned. Only 20% of the border had Border Patrol agents on it. So when you look at that number, 3 million, everyone in my business laughs, like openly laughs. We know that number to be conservatively 15 to 18 million. So there's your 30 million. So there's my 50 to 52 million. Let's play the devil's advocate. I'm wrong. I play this game. I'm wrong. Okay, I'm wrong. Let's add up what the federal government is admitted to prior to Biden and during Biden. The federal government submitted to 22 million through that study, and everyone agreed to 22 million. I believe it's wrong, but we'll go to it. Joe Biden's admitted to 12 million. Now we're at 34 million. They've admitted to 3 million absconded, 37 million. They've admitted to at least 1 million illegal aliens they flew into America and released in international airports. We're at 38 million. So you're going to split hairs with me between 52 million and 38 million? If I'm wrong, and the federal government, the same federal government that has lied to you for your whole entire life, is now found Jesus and they're telling you the absolute truth, they're at 38 to 40 million. Is anybody in America okay with 38 to 40 million? I'm telling you, as a guy that's been in the business for 24 years, I did 2 documentaries, I've written 2 best-selling books, people pay me to speak on this topic. I am telling you, it's 50 plus million. So going back to Tom Homan, think of what we're asking Tom Homan to do, to go into the interior of America and pull out 50 million people. But what he's doing is absolutely the best thing to do. And people say, so one day he pulled out, in the first week, he arrested and deported a little under 10,000. People go, oh, that's 10,000, that's nothing. No, it's huge, because he doesn't have to deport 50 million people. He just needs to make it so unbearable for the 50 million that they leave. And we're already seeing caravans of people leaving back to Mexico. And now you're seeing the border has been completely shut off. Now we're at 93% decrease in daily arrests. 93%. Tom Homan now is going into the cities and he's eradicating the worst of the worst, and he's picking up, we call collaterals, people that are just on the street or in the house or whatever. You're illegal, you're coming too. It just is it's an all front attack, but Tom Homan is the man. And why Tom Homan is even, this is the part of Tom Homan that is the part of Donald Trump that is absolute a necessity to succeed. And that is that unflinching patriotic belief of what I'm doing is right and I'm not apologizing for anything. You watch him on these interviews and he gives one-word answers. They're the greatest answers I've ever seen. CBS, NBC, all those ugly, ugly women, physically ugly because they're so ugly inside. They're saying, well, are you meaning deporting everybody? Yes. Are you going to have flights? Yes. Are you going to be nonstop deporting people? Yes. Because there's no other reason, there's no other explanation he needs to give.
Yeah.
Right.
The only follow-up question that I would like Tom Homan to ask once he berates them, as he always does, and I love it, the question that I would ask back is, say, in the interview, I would just say, hold on one second. I need to ask you a question. Why are you so concerned and so trying to be so helpful for illegal aliens that broke our laws? Why? I want to know who I'm speaking to and why your perspective is that you care more about illegal aliens than American citizens. And I would just sit there and let that hang because they have no excuse. They just hate America, if they're honest. But to answer your question, Tom Homan is the absolute, you know, when you ever been in a business or you see someone get promoted and you're like, yeah, that was a right pick. That guy he deserves everything and he's going to kill it. That's him.
Yeah.
And then there's another component. I don't know if you guys know Rodney Scott, Chief Rodney Scott. Okay.
Yeah.
So Chief Rodney Scott was the Border Patrol chief in San Diego sector. He promoted me into management, and then he rose up to be chief of the Border Patrol under Trump. He was chief under Border Patrol under Biden, and they fired him, of course, because he would not bend a knee at all, and he defied Mayorkas. He's now going to be the new commissioner of Customs and Border Protection. So you have Kristi Noem running DHS. You have Rodney Scott, who is absolutely aligned with Tom Homan with a 180-degree personality difference than Tom Homan, but he is steadfast. Like he's not, I don't say Tom Homan's bombastic. Tom Homan's just raw.
Yeah.
Rodney Scott is an Oklahoman, grew up in California, but he's from Oklahoma. He's just this is what we're going to do. Methodical, go, pressure. So you have these three leaders. There's no way we're going to be anything but successful.
Yeah. And
no way.
I'm excited to share a fantastic opportunity for State of Freedom listeners who are interested in investing in precious metals or even starting a home-based business in the precious metals industry. Metal Stacks is a precious metals collectors club where you can buy your metals at the best prices on the market, actual dealer cost. They are beating the big sites. They have no credit card fees and no minimums. If you're just interested in purchasing metals at a great price, visit metalstacks.com/DWalker. Get to shopping. That helps me out. I get the commission. You can also refer people to Metal Stacks for an additional income. If you're interested in learning about the referral business aspect of Metal Stacks, email me directly at danielle@freedomstate.us for more information.
JJ, the point you make is so interesting because you always meet with the objection. There's no way they're going to be able to get 50 million illegal aliens out of this country. There's no way they're going to do it. But your point that you make about if you deport a significant number of them and set the precedent whereby they know they're not welcome in the United States anymore, we will begin to see massive self-deportation. And so the issue ultimately could take care of itself because of the policies that you just outlined.
Yeah, and then Donald Trump did something else through Tom Homan that was magnificent, and I wrote about this in both of my books. And I said, this has to be part of the process because it has to be, I'm going to use the crazy left and the rhinos. It has to be comprehensive, right? Anytime you hear that, you run for the hills, but I'm going to use their words, comprehensive immigration, deportation. Tom Homan said that if you are now found to be in America, you will have a 20-year ban attached to you. So now I have a stick where I'm driving you out. I'm going to deport you, but I have a carrot too. The carrot is if you do not leave, when you go back, you go through the legal system. Yes, you can come back. But if you're married to a U.S. citizen, you have U.S. citizen children, you have blah, 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 blah. You're never coming back for 20 years. You're not coming to Disneyland. You're not coming to see your grandchildren. You're not coming. Yeah. That's it. 20 years, get out. And if you get out before we arrest you and catch you in America, then we can think about bringing you back in. But immigration has to be for the benefit of the nation that is bringing in the immigrants. It's common sense. Like Donald Trump said in his inauguration, we are going to begin to make decisions based on common sense. And it is, but we've been living in a world that is completely devoid of common sense. God, I mean, think of this. Think about how far our nation has gone, like how far we are, that the newly elected president in his inauguration has to make a declarative statement there are only two genders.
Right.
Yeah.
If we knew nothing else
about the state of American culture, that in and of itself would tell you pretty much everything that you need to know.
We had we had a big inauguration party with 10 families here that are like-minded in Kansas and with their kids. And we were watching that and he said that and we all cheered. But one of my buddies looked at me and said, can you believe that we have come this far as a society that we have to actually verbalize the obvious? I'm like, yeah, we're so beyond. But I think we all need as Americans to take the lead of these men that are leading us: Donald Trump, Tom Homan, Kristi Noem, Rodney Scott. And in that way, Kash Patel is be unapologetic about what you believe in. Because we're not all right, we're sinners, however, but we are at least on the side of God, and we believe in taking care of Americans. And you need to speak in those terms. Are we going to take care of illegal aliens, or are we going to take care of Americans? We're 35 trillion in debt on the bottom line. On the highest level, we're at 210 trillion. People can't even wrap their brain around with all the benefits and pensions, et cetera. So it's not as if we're this gigantic nation that has trillions of dollars in our bank and we can take care of people and it doesn't hurt me. No. Services are being cut in the inner cities. Total small towns and communities have been devastated by illegal aliens. It's gone. And we can talk about that. We can talk about, in my book, I write a chapter on the big cities collapse in New York, Chicago, Philadelphia, Austin, LA, San Francisco, San Diego. I can just go on and on and on. However, as bad as that is, I enumerated multiple cities, little towns, that have been decimated.
Yeah.
I'm talking about 33% of their population changeover, 100% changeover, a 50% change. And then you know what happens. Everyone leaves because no one wants to be the last person holding the bag.
Yep.
So we're looking at the intentional, I believe for 4 years, we have been looking at treason happen in real time.
Yeah.
And I believe, and I won't stand, my book is titled that. And my book, I go through steps as if I was back in the Border Patrol presenting a narcotic or human smuggling event that I arrested to a U.S. attorney and saying, here is all my pictures. Here's all my videos. Here are all my sworn statements. Here's my witness statements. Here's statements from law enforcement. Here's everything. Here's everything. Now, I need you to go prosecute these people because I don't believe if Donald Trump, this is the last part of Donald Trump's movement, because he has shocked me on some things he's done that I didn't even think about that are great. The last thing that he doesn't have to prove anything to me, but this is the last thing that I'm demanding from an American citizen. Those people that committed treason must be arrested.
Yeah.
They must be tried. And I don't care how history looks at you now, Mr. Trump, but historians 100 years from now will fawn over you about being the most righteous, most courageous man ever to eradicate the traitors from the American government.
Yeah. You say it so well, JJ, and I want to pick up on something that you touched on about these men and women who are standing up and speaking the truth unapologetically. One thing I noticed during these hearings over the last couple of weeks has been Democrats' incessant need to have the person, right, whether it's RFK Jr., whether it's Kash Patel, Pam Bondi, tell me that the 2020 election was not stolen. Say it with your words. Like they are say that vaccines do not cause autism. They want you to say the lie because it's empowering them. I believe it's a door to Satan, right? Like our words have power. And if we truly believe that God spoke creation to existence through the spoken word, and we are created in his image, then our words have power. And if we do not bow the knee, if we do not equivocate, if we continue to hammer home the truth, we will continue to turn the tide. But to say how many decades have conservatives bent the knee? How many times have we equivocated and apologized for the truth, right? Or for believing the truth? We have just bowed. This is what we're bearing the fruit of that. You know, we're living in the fruit of that now. But I'm so thankful for these people who have stood up and spoken the truth. And I just love, to say it really bluntly, the level of high testosterone that has come in with this administration. It's super refreshing to see men be men again. You know, we've seen some really disgusting and retarded moves by quote unquote leaders in the last administration. It was sickening. And now we're seeing true men rise up and lead, and it's beautiful. And on that note, I do want to ask you, Kristi Noem, can you give your perspective on what is she bringing to the table in this? Because I've only seen her kind of as a governor from a distance, right? I don't really know that much about her, but from your perspective, why is she right for this job?
Well, there's a lot that you just said there, and I would like to go back to the masculinity part, but I will tell you, I don't know Kristi Noem well, but I have met her several times. I lived in South Dakota for about 2 years before I moved to Kansas. I love South Dakota. And I met her. I went from Gavin Newsom to Kristi Noem, and everything she does is common sense. She's making decisions like a rancher in South Dakota would make, right? Normal stuff. I'm paying too much for tax. Why am I paying this much for tax? Okay, let's cut the tax. Why is my water bill so high? Why are we don't have enough water? We're living in South Dakota. It snows constantly. We have more than enough water. And things like that, where when I was in South Dakota, it felt like Normalville. Like this is what, I don't have to wear a mask. I don't have to get a vaccine. I don't have to do anything. I don't want to. It's very independent, you take care of you. If you need help, I will help you. But you leave me alone, I leave you alone. You're not bringing your garbage into my community, into my schools, into anything. And that's how she ran her state. So, and she was one of the first ones to begin to send our National Guard down to the border. And she was one of the few governors that was going down the border because she saw a direct line from the border to South Dakota. Well, what's that direct line? Well, it's all the hard narcotics. Because all the hard narcotics, the narco smugglers were using the Indian reservations as their place for cover. And we have, in South Dakota, we have numerous very, very poor third world nation type reservations in South Dakota. So there are no more border states. Every state is a border state now. So Kristi Noem brings common sense. She brings tenacity. She's been through the ringer. So what's great? Rodney Scott, Tom Homan, Kash Patel, Kristi Noem, RFK Jr., name anybody that's now in his cabinet or in a high position. They've already been through the ringer, meaning they've already been exposed for all the embarrassing things that we all have, and they've overcome them, and now they're like, I'm standing tall. What else you got? Oh, you have nothing. Okay, here we go. And so I believe when people say, well, Tom Homan was going to be DHS secretary, and I was like, no, that's the absolute worst thing you could have ever done. Why? Because DHS, the secretary, it's like 250,000 employees. It's a beast. Tom Homan would have been swallowed up in daily administrative minutia, and he would have to go through vetting. Can you imagine Tom Homan going and stand in front of Congress? I mean, it would just be, I would pay money for that, right? But this was a chess move by Donald Trump. Donald Trump said, no. You're going to go right to me, to you. You're my border czar. These idiots in the Democrat Party already set the precedent. You're the border czar. You're not touched. No one can touch you. Now go, Tom Homan. Wow. That was beautiful. A chess move. So he had to put someone in DHS that had the intellect, the stamina, and the courage to do what needs to be done. And that's Kristi Noem. Now, I'd like to go back just for a second of what you said, and I believe this is all tied together. And it's masculinity in America. Because if you go, I believe, I can trace every problem in America back to the lack of the man and the lack of the father in America. All of it. There is a natural order in God's natural order where the man is the head of the household, head of the nation, and he has to be strong. He's got to be a protector. He's got to be a provider, and he's got to be willing to fight in the face of knowing, okay, I'm going to get pummeled here. I don't care. I'm going to go do it. That's been lacking in America. So when you say the testosterone, the masculinity, why is that now so in your face? Because it has been missing for decades. I mean, we got a little bit of it of Donald Trump in 4 years, but he was on the defensive the whole time. Now we're looking at, and I call him the alpha male, not the alpha male of America or Washington, D.C. I'm talking about, he's the alpha male of the world. Like, he's the most, if you said to anyone in the world, who's the most powerful lion on the savannah? Well, it's that American President Donald Trump. He's making everyone bend a knee. He's unapologetic. And I will say that, and I believe this, and I'm sure that we share some similarities on this belief. I believe he's touched by God.
Yeah.
I don't believe his head did not get exploded on national TV. God moved his head, moved it just slightly. And I think that was God telling him, bringing Trump to his knees and saying, I got you. Now, are you ready? So when you look at a man like Trump and the way that he's articulating himself, he never gets upset anymore. It's almost a very calm demeanor, which is more frightening than anything when you're dealing with a masculine alpha male, is when they're calm, because boy, right? He's ready to explode. Guys that are screaming and yelling and pounding desks, they're just buffoons. And everyone just goes, yeah, he's not. He is so resolute. He is so on par. And it's like, we're doing this, we're doing that. And it's just like, I can't believe he said that. We're going to change the Gulf of Mexico to Gulf of America. You think that's a small thing? That's a huge thing. Hey, I want Greenland. You guys want to vote for me to take Greenland? Hey, Mexico and Canada, yeah, 50% tariffs. Here we go. And then they bend a knee.
Yeah.
I think its masculinity is good. The problem with America is the lack of the man and lack of the father. That man, those men are only people that are going to be able to change America. Do we need the women? Yes. But the men allowed this to happen. The men allowed transgender men to now teach our children in school. We've allowed the LGBTQ into our houses of worship. We allowed them into our schools, into our public squares. We allowed all this insanity, and because men would never allow it. Do you think my father and my father's father would allow transgender men in dresses and fake breasts, having full-on erections, give me one-on-one time? You think that would happen in our society? You think gay pride parade where men are having intercourse in the public square naked would be allowed? Or do you think that they would have been literally removed from earth?
Yeah.
Back in those
JJ
days?
said, what you're saying reminded me about what I believe it was Dostoevsky, the great writer, who said that if you go back and look at history and you look at the decline of civilizations, it is always coincides with the decline of moral courage among men. And when that begins to happen, that always precipitates the weakening of the culture and the ultimate death of the civilization. We do, as men, have a unique role to play, and it is good to see that once again we are reasserting our natural hegemony and our natural role, not only in our country but throughout the world because of President.
I agree. And it's amazing, isn't it, that one man changed the course of history? Just one man. And anybody that pushes back on me and says, well, it's not really one man, I say, okay, stop. Tell me who you would replace him with right now, and things would continue on. Go ahead.
Not one.
Not one single human being out of 350 million in America that could come. I'll even give you the world, 8.2 billion people. Pick one and put him in a spot and tell me that anything would have happened, or you can carry on this guy's legacy in 2 weeks. No, it's one man. One man changed it. And isn't it amazing when you look at the Bible and you see the very flawed men God chose? And people say, well, God would never choose Trump. I'm like, are you crazy? Like someone told me, he said, anybody look at Daniel? Daniel makes Donald Trump look like he's just like stealing candy from the
It does.
7-Eleven, right?
Yeah, he's always chooses. It's a consistent pattern in who God chooses. They are always men who are deeply flawed. I mean,
Yes.
Great men have great flaws and foibles, and it's not by accident that God chooses men like that, because I believe that it's God's infinitely wise way of reminding us, first of all, that I will choose who I want to choose.
Mhm.
And I will choose those who are often the most flawed so that my strength can show and shine through them.
Yeah, and God's not as religious as us.
And God's not as religious as we are. Amen, Danielle. Amen. What has religion become? Which may be a conversation for another podcast, but it certainly all does not reflect the heart of Christ.
No.
That's true.
No, our faith leaders have failed us miserably in all denominations. I'm Catholic, and the Pope is an absolute disgrace. And I say that sadly, but we're looking at all faiths have failed us.
Yeah.
But things are changing. The border is completely secure. I don't know how to really articulate this except tell you this was day one. I started getting texts and phone calls from my buddies down the border, and they told me, JJ, you can't imagine what's happened. Everything stopped.
That's what I want to know. How's the morale down there with your guys?
The morale's off the chart. ICE agents are now roaming the streets of America, just arresting people left and right. Border Patrol agents, no one is released. No one's allowed to be released. This is what happens if you're dumb enough, if you've been conditioned enough as a Border Patrol agent to think of releasing somebody. you have to go to your patrol agent in charge or your deputy, which I was, then I would have to make a phone call to sector headquarters. And then sector headquarters is going to now have to make a phone call to Washington, D.C. to release one person. I'm not doing that. I'm not calling up there for anything. So men, women, children, gone. They're using C-130s and putting men, women, and children in C-130s. You know, remember the picture of the Afghanis all jammed in there? That's what they're doing. They're putting them all in there in seat-belted seats and flying them across the globe. What Donald Trump has done also is, people, this is inside baseball, but it has a profound impact on the border and your lives. So there are a lot of nations on planet Earth that will not take back their people because they're a communist nation. They hate America. There's no reciprocation. So until Donald Trump can get them to bend a knee, which he will, like he did the last 4 years, he's the only president to do this. Now he's going to open up 30,000 beds in Gitmo. So if I have someone from North Korea or Russia or Japan, and they're like, no, I'm not taking them back. Okay, I'm going to put you in Guantanamo Bay until I can get you deported to your home country. Guess what American presidents have done? Every president outside of President Trump, they release those savages on our streets. MS-13 gang members, terrorists, gang members, child rapists. Oh, they won't take you. Okay, we'll just let you stay here in America. That's what we've done. That's how sick our leaders have become. Donald Trump is not doing that. Donald Trump is securing the border. Let me give you just so you have an idea of how insane this is. So my buddy is in San Diego sector, and he's one of the higher level managers. And he's at a station in San Diego, and he goes, JJ, I swear to you, this happened. And they have a giant helipad by the station. He goes, all of a sudden, these giant helicopters started landing on our station. And then literally 500 Marines knocked on our door, like knocked on the front station door and said, hey, what do you want us to do? And they were like, who are you? Well, we're the Marines. We got sent here. And he goes, okay, here we go. Let's get down the border. It can be done. This whole idea where Mayorkas did everything intentionally. Biden did everything intentionally to increase the flow of illegal aliens into America because they wanted to fundamentally transform America, and they made a decision to weaponize illegal immigration. And this is the proof to my allegation of treason is look at what's happened. They stopped the invasion. They stopped it overnight. So that means it could have been done, but you didn't want it done. You wanted it to be completely wide open. Tom Homan has found 80,000 of the children in 1 week. You had the same apparatus in place, Biden, but you wouldn't go locate the children. Why? And we have no idea about what these children have been exposed to.
Yeah,
it's 80,000. We're still missing 420,000.
420,000. I want to follow up on that particular point. 80,000 or so have been recovered. Thank God. 400,000 others, we don't know where they are. A significant percentage of these kids have probably been sold into this horrible trafficking by their own parents, I would imagine. What do we do? What does the government do with these kids? Let's just say we end up recovering all of them. What is the process whereby we make sure that they are protected, cared for, assuming we either can't locate their parents or their guardians, or their parents are nefarious actors who actually sold them into it, and they certainly don't need to go back there? What do we do with these kids?
I think that's a great question, and I am okay either way. However, there are 550,000 of these children crossed in 4 years. 550,000. They lost them all of them. I'll quote Donald Trump. Donald Trump says, you're not going to find a lot of them because a lot of them are already dead. And he's right, because we're talking about organ harvesting. We're talking about child trafficking, child sacrifice, everything that goes with this. So let's say we find all 550,000, up to 80%. And some people are telling me it's a straight stone cold 100%. But just on the numbers, I'm going to use left-wing numbers, United Nations, IOM, all those people. 80%, up to 80% of every woman and child that crosses the border into America has been sexually assaulted or raped. Okay? I know it's hard to even fathom, but 80%. And I know this is going to sound very cold, but I have a child and I'm going to have grandchildren, hopefully one day, and we have American children. As the detention workers explained to me, We were releasing children from our custody in government and transporting them to cartel members that we knew were cartel members, sponsors we didn't vet. And we were releasing young children that had been sexually abused and raped and tortured into America. All research in this topic shows that they become ticking time bombs because they now have been in a culture where that is normal, where we teach our kids you can't touch them, touchy people there, you have to have privacy, your private parts, blah, blah, blah. Their whole mentality is distorted, so they act out. So you're going to take over 500,000 children that have been raped and sexually abused and pour them into our school system so that they can touch or rape our children. So you have a ticking time bomb. So now we have a moral problem, right? We have a moral dilemma here. What do we do with these children? My belief is this: we can be absolutely humane about the way we do it. They all have to go back to their home countries. And here's the thing, the home countries want them back. Let me give you an example. At the time, this was back in August, it was about 440,000 children had been brought into America. Over almost half of that 440,000 were from Guatemala. One nation, Guatemala. The Guatemalan Attorney General raided 5 NGOs in Guatemala. One of them was Save the Children, was the biggest. And Guatemala sent letters of legal lawsuits to Texas, Washington, D.C., saying, America, you have been kidnapping our children, have been brought into Texas mainly and distributed and trafficked. We want it to cease, and we want to find out where these kids are. 212,000 of them.
So Save the Children was literally stealing children.
That is the Attorney General's. Do you know who was the board of directors on Save the Children?
Jill Biden.
Jill Biden. Do you know what happened when that raid occurred? Like maybe a week or 10 days later? Do you know that Anthony Blinken showed up down in Guatemala and he pulled a Ukraine and he demanded the Attorney General be fired for corruption? The exact same move they did in Ukraine for Hunter Biden, Joe Biden did to save Jill Biden. Look it up. I have a very good friend that did a documentary with me named Ryan Matta, has been basically living in Guatemala, proving this point with multiple documentaries. Our government, and in my documentary, What is Treason Trafficked, I prove without a shadow of a doubt that the American government, the United States federal government, is the world's largest child sex trafficking organization in modern history. And everyone I interviewed, whistleblowers of all the alphabet agencies, the men and women that were the escorts, taking the children and trafficking them across state lines. The people worked in federal whistleblowers at HHS, ORR. I interviewed all of them, all of the child sex trafficking hunters for the children that go hunt for the children and go hunt for the organizations. They all, without hesitation, say, yes, the federal government is trafficking children. They know it.
JJ, you're suggesting or saying that these kids, the overwhelming majority of these kids, 500,000, whatever it is, can and should be humanely returned to their own countries? Is that what you're saying?
Yes, because, okay, let's take Guatemala, for example. So a lot of these kids are kidnapped, or, and I know this is going to be hard for people to understand, or their parents rented them or sold them. Now, I have to ask a question, and I want you to think it through the lens of our children. Are you going to allow the probability of your child to be harmed? Meaning, if you want to keep these kids in America, then I'm going to put them all in your kids' school. All of them. Right? You're going to roll the dice with your son or your daughter? You're going to do that because you're so morally morally upright than I am? I'm not saying rip them and throw them into planes. No, I'm talking about, hey, we're going to have psychiatrists. We're going to have social workers. We did this. America, you did this to these kids. So we have a moral obligation to take care of them. And then if you're someone in Guatemala and you're like, my son disappeared. Well, wouldn't you like your son back? Wouldn't you like your nephew back, or your grandson back?
And JJ, wouldn't the people of Guatemala be in a better position to care for these kids, even if it's through a foster care situation, than we would be here? Is that?
Yes. And what I would also do is I would attach dollars and assistance to every child that we recover, because we did this. We did this, America. We brought them over. Our government knew. Let me give you this is important, because I know people that are going to watch this are going to say, well, how the government know their kids? And well, let me tell you how they knew. Because under Donald Trump is last year, and this was all because of President Obama, his policies. Donald Trump had between 15, 20, 25,000 unaccompanied alien children, and then released them. But they were all released to sponsors that were vetted, DNA testing, all kinds of stuff. Under Biden, he removed DNA testing. There was no background checks. The smugglers, the international criminal organizations across the globe that didn't even know each other, began to exploit certain loopholes within the sponsorship program that they just discovered in order to move the children. We went from 15, 20,000 a year to 120,000 the first year, and nothing was done. We went to 130 second year, 140 the third year, and 150 the fourth year. Look at what our government did. And my point is, if a child is here and they're a U.S. citizen or a naturalized or a legal card holder, and they can prove that they're legal, right, through the system, and they're like, I want to keep this child, and you can get an affidavit from someone, the parental person in that foreign country, fine, they can stay, right? But I'm not going to infuse 500,000. There's not 500,000, just so we're aware. 550,000, a lot of them are dead, okay? Whoever's left is incredibly damaged. What are you going to do? We can't even take care of our foster kids in America. So when are we going to prioritize Americans first? And I believe we have a moral obligation to take care of our children first.
Yeah.
And to do this in a legal and a very humane, a very, very soft white glove way with these children.
And I agree
them.
with you. Yeah. Yeah, there's a big difference in throwing them on a plane and in giving them the care and the efforts at rehabilitation and healing that they need first, because this is our fault.
We have ownership of this, 100% ownership.
What's legal or personnel apparatus needs to be in place to get that moving? Or do you think it's already moving behind the scenes? Because, of course, we haven't heard very much since the initial recovery number was given.
I'm sure they've already laid this out with social workers, because here's the irony of all ironies is this. Everything that the American hating traitorous left did, they created the greatest apparatus to move people northbound. They also created the greatest apparatus to move them south out of our country. We're going to use what they built. In order to move children, they used a web of organization where there was maybe 300, 400, 500, 600 child detentions, big, small, and in between, all across America. It was a web. They created a distribution arm. HHS has complete control over every state CPS. Did you know that? That's how they were moving children as well, through the foster system, illegally. So you just reverse all this. You're going to have to use the National Guard. You're going to have to use everything at your disposal, and you're seeing President Trump do that. You now have FBI, DEA, Homeland Security investigators. You're seeing everyone, ATF now, are going out and eradicating our nation of illegal aliens. It is a all hands on deck, and I'm sure they will use the same thing dealing with the children.
On the broader question, JJ, of immigration, apart from the children, who I think are in a distinct category, but the broader issue that you mentioned earlier, the millions and millions of illegal immigrants who are currently in our country, there have been a number of local law enforcement leaders, state leaders, I believe the governor of Arizona, Hobbs, the mayor of Denver, governor of Illinois, Pritzker. They've said that they're going to resist federal law enforcement efforts to do what needs to be done with regard to deportation of these illegal immigrants. How is Tom dealing with that issue?
I think Tom Homan is waiting for the sacrificial lamb to stick their stupid neck out and he's going to chop their head off. And let me give you an example. He already backed down the mayor of Denver. He said, I'm going to go arrest him because Tom Homan has the law behind him. It's 8 USC 1324, and that's harboring, concealment, furthering. It's a smuggling charge that we would put on human smugglers. But if you're harboring and concealing them, that falls under 8 USC 1324. It's a felony. You had the governor of New Jersey this weekend, Murphy, say that he's allowing an illegal alien to live above his garage. And Tom Homan said, I'm already looking into it. And if that person is illegal alien, then we will go in and we will do what's needed to the governor. Now, he's going to have to do the unthinkable and begin to arrest people like Pritzker. Pritzker is now allowing illegal aliens in his jail system to officially change their names and give them different identifications so the ICE cannot track them. Think about what I just said.
Yeah.
That is a criminal offense. Murphy is concealing an illegal alien knowingly above his garage. Donald Trump is going to have to authorize Tom Homan to go make one or two of these arrests. And guess what? He'll stop.
Yeah.
It will stop overnight. Donald Trump is going to have to do things that current historians are going to be shocked at and call him vile names. I mean, future politicians, historians 100 years from now will write volumes and volumes as if he was the second coming of George Washington, because this has to be done. Will he do it? I'm going to bet money yes. I bet you right now Tom Homan wakes up every day thinking, is this the day I'm going to go arrest a mayor or a governor?
You think he has the authority, JJ, to do that right now?
He has the authority.
You think he's been given the sanction by the president to do that now?
I don't. The way that Tom Homan talks, I would have to assume that Donald Trump has given the green light. Because
I hope he brings Dr. Phil when he arrests Pritzker, can I say?
Oh yeah, then Dr. Phil can talk to him and soothe him down, right? But the way Tom Homan speaks in the way that he says, I'm going to go do this, he had to have been given the green light by Trump. They have to have these same conversations you and I are discussing because it's happening in real time. And then it becomes like anything else. Oh, I'm going to let this is a broken window theory, right? If there's a broken window in my block and no one takes care of it, well, the next house has a broken window. Now the door's off the hinges. Now no one cuts the yard. All of a sudden I got drug dealers and prostitution. Oh my God, what happened to my little neighborhood? Whereas, hey, you need to fix that window. Like right now you begin to get fined. Okay, it's done. And everyone's like, oh, I better keep my yard. I better have my windows, and my neighborhood stays tight. Same thing in law enforcement. If you allow people, especially high power people, to defy law and then make you look impotent and weak, that is a bad combination. However, if you attack and be on the aggressive and attack criminality, guess what? There's a trickle down effect where everyone's like, holy cow, they just arrested Pritzker. What? Get those illegals out of my bodega get them out, because we're going to fine you. We're going to fine you per the Immigration Nationality Act. And to tell your audience this, no law needs to be, there's nothing where I'm like, well, we need this type of law and we need that type of law. We already have it. All the laws are in the Immigration Nationality Act, the INA. It's the Bible of immigration. All we have to do is follow that. Just follow it. Do we need to clean it up? Yes, I'm sure, and get rid of loopholes, but I don't need any more laws. I got 8 USC 1324 to go arrest everyone that's harboring illegal aliens and do it fast.
How soon, on the topic of arrest, do you think we're going to see people at Save the Children, at Catholic Charities, at this Episcopal Charities start getting arrested? Because you've mentioned there are whistleblowers. There's obviously Border Patrol, who knows what has gone down and just had all their reports have apparently fallen on deaf ears in the previous administration.
I think you're seeing right off the bat, Kristi Noem has already defunded all the NGOs. So that coincides with 93% decrease, because think of the federal government as an incredible Tesla, beautiful car, has no engine. The engine is the NGOs. And I've been funneling money, oil, everything in that, batteries, everything is running. Now I ripped it out. I ripped the batteries and all the engine. I ripped it all out of the Tesla. It's just a car that sits there. That's what's happened to immigration. You ripped out the engine. Do I believe we're going to see everyone that should be arrested? No, because this crime has been so widespread. There are so many people involved, and we're talking all the way up to the highest levels. Let's take Catholic Charities, for example. I know we're running out of time, but it's important. Catholic Charities. Catholic Charities has at least on the hook, or Catholic Church, and Catholic Charities, Catholic Church, same thing. Don't anybody tell you it's different. They're lying to you. Catholic Church has been on the hook for $5 billion for sexual abuse allegation payouts. How much money has the Catholic Church gotten from 2009 to 2024 from the federal government for refugee resettlement and all illegal aliens? Over $5.2 billion. $5.2 billion. Catholic Charities received almost $3 billion in the last 4 years. Almost doubled their money in 4 years. This goes to all of the Baptist churches, Episcopal, Jewish Family Services, everything you can imagine, they're involved.
Is it tied in with USAID? Because I saw
Yes.
yesterday the unthinkable happen.
US aid, which everyone believes is like aid, but it's not. It's for
Money laundering.
money laundering through the belief of spreading democracy and building countries up. No, they're all involved. This was a global initiative or criminal syndicate to pump money into international NGOs to move third world nations, individuals from the Southern Hemisphere into the Western nations and destroy us in order to have a global reset and bring America to its knees, because you cannot reset the globe if the great American empire is still humming along. You have to bring her to the knees. I know that sounds conspiratorial, but it's not conspiratorial when you begin to just look at what they say and look at their actions. And it makes sense because they tell you up front, this is what we're trying to do. We're trying to reset the globe. And thank God, and only by the grace of God, did he give us Donald Trump. But to go full circle in this conversation, I believe God has a stopwatch and he is watching and he's looking at his clock and he's saying, America, clock is ticking. You're not going fast enough. I think he saved us. I think he listened to our prayers, just like in the Old Testament where people prayed and prayed and prayed, please don't forsake us. And God goes, okay, I'll give you a reprieve. And then multiple times they didn't change. And then God destroyed everything, killed everything. Are you telling me that same God is not going to do that now? And we are way worse than Sodom and Gomorrah.
We are so honored to be affiliate partners for General Michael Flynn's movie, Flynn, Deliver the Truth, Whatever the Cost. Support General Flynn and the State of Freedom by shopping the Flynn movie store directly from the button on our homepage at freedomstate.us or through our affiliate link, flynnmovie.com/TSOF podcast. On that site, you can purchase the DVD, which comes with a streaming link. You can pick up Flynn movie merchandise and get his complete 5GW book series.
AJ, I have a final question here for you, because some people don't understand specifically what the relationship is between the Catholic Church, the Catholic hierarchy, and Catholic Charities. I'm a lifelong Catholic. I'm a practicing Catholic. And if in fact there is, so I just want to know, what is the relationship? Does the Catholic Church, the Catholic hierarchy, have regulatory or administrative control over Catholic Charities?
Every group, Catholic charity group, like they have one giant international and then they have the subgroups, right? There's a bishop tied to every one of them. Why is that? Why is the bishop in America tied to every Catholic Charities subdivision? Why? And let me ask you something, Chris, because I'm a practicing Catholic too, and I love my faith. I love it. I despise the facilitators of my faith. And that's a topic for another
for another day, but it's heartbreaking.
But let me ask you something, Chris. Here's a bigger question. The Catholic Church, with all their trademarks and all their power across the globe, do you think Catholic Church would allow anybody to be able to use their name to collect money? Do you honestly, just from a business perspective, there's no way in hell the Catholic Church is going to release their trademark name Catholic and tie it to charities and not receive the money from Catholic Charities
and receive no benefit from it. Right.
It's insane to believe that. But the Catholic Church has been very, very good at saying, well, that's not really us. No, it's you, you idiot. It's you. Your Catholic Charities. Do you know the Catholic Charities? They received even more money, billions and billions and billions of dollars. Why is the Catholic Church receiving billions of dollars from the federal government of the United States of America?
Yeah.
Why?
Where the church and state separation screaming people there?
All NGOs need to be defunded and brought to their knees, and then we systematically go through and see what charity is legitimate and what charity we need as a nation to help. But if you are tied to illegal aliens or refugees, you're gone. And all you have to do is defund them and they collapse because they have their funding structure. The only avenue is the U.S. government.
Yeah, that is the only avenue. And what you're saying here, it truly, truly is heartbreaking, JJ, again, as a Catholic and someone who tries to be loyal to the faith and to the church. It just reminds me of something one of my older brothers told me a long time ago. He said that, we have to remember that the Catholic Church is divinely instituted by Christ, but it is humanly constituted by corrupt and fallible men.
Mm-hmm.
And we have to remember that, and we have to continue to fight for reformation within the church, because this is an injustice. This is a scandal of massive proportion, and it's just something that clearly begs for justice. No question about it. Any final words, JJ, today before we let you go?
Let me get your book up there. Let me see it.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, we got to pub the book, right? Everybody has to. No, I have a book coming out called Treason. I did my first book, Invaded, was a bestseller on Amazon. I'm going to release this and publish it through Amazon as well. My first book, Invaded, talked about the first 2 years of Joe Biden's administration through my eyes of just being retired. And then I went back and I looked at what they had done, what they have created. And I wrote a book that I'm very proud of called Treason. It comes out on February 18th. You go to Amazon.com or go to jjcarrell.com and you can purchase it straight from Amazon. And I will be honest, there were moments, because I write late at night. There were moments late at night where I would write a chapter and I would reread it, and I was shocked at the success that our federal government, that the traders were able to create, facilitate, fund, and then ultimately be successful. I could not believe it. I honestly couldn't, to see what they were able to do in 4 years. But the great news is Donald Trump is dismantling it all. But I will tell you, America, these next several years will not be for the faint of heart. You better be ready to articulate why you believe what you believe in, because you are going to be challenged, you're going to be yelled at, and you need to pick a side, and you need to be strong in your faith and your belief, and then have the ability to articulate why you believe what you believe, and never bend a knee. We're at that time.
We're at that time now. Before we let you go, JJ, just want to remind our listeners that tomorrow, we have the Super Bowl coming up in New Orleans next weekend, and we're going to have the Apostle Sidney Morales on our show tomorrow live to talk about some of the worship events coming up before the Super Bowl. The Super Bowl, as other large commercial events, presents great opportunities for traffickers and people of nefarious intent. So we're going to be prayed up. So be sure, all of our listeners, to listen tomorrow when we have Sidney Morales on, and he can tell us what we can do to participate in some of the worship events to make sure that we are fully wrapped in the armor of God during the Super Bowl in New Orleans. JJ Carrell, you're a great American. Few have done more than you. I have to ask you this before you go. I'm sorry. Are you working informally with Tom Homan now?
I am not.
Anyway?
Nope. I'm on the outside. I've been accused of that when I was doing my congressional testimony. I was accused of looking for work, and I've never done that. So no, I'm by myself. I believe that I am exactly where I'm supposed to be right now. But who knows what the future holds? I'll always entertain anything and see where God leads me. But I believe I'm right where I'm supposed to be right now.
Well said. God bless you, sir. We hope to talk to you again soon.
Great. Thank you. Have a great week.
Thank
All
you.
right.
You as
Bye-bye.
well. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thanks for joining us today on the State of Freedom. Be sure and check out the show notes for this episode. You can always go there and find the calls to action and resources mentioned in the show, and you can find out more information about our advertisers there as well. If you want to learn more about us or support our work, visit freedomstate.us. To get involved with Louisiana Citizen Advocacy Group, visit LACAG.org. We'll see you next time. God bless.